the voters out there don't think like that.
But
that
means they don't have the information.
Okay, but 90% of the voters don't have the information.
Sunny Hostin thought she could take on Stephen A. Smith, but it didn't go as planned. His appearance on the show touched on everything from Biden's leadership to the realities of American politics.
Stephen A., your thoughts on the election as it just went down?
I was surprised at how lopsided it was. I was not surprised by the outcome. I saw the outcome coming from a mile away.
He backed up his point with his take on Biden's administration.
You have to take into account, listen, we respect our president, Joe Biden, but here's the reality. He got into office, he promised to be a transitional president, to be a stopgap to pave the way for somebody else to come on board. The Democrats was flying high. He felt the momentum because he was the incumbent. And instead of leaving, he decided to stay.
He also explained how Biden's decision to stay affected the Democrats.
When he decided to stay, the Democrats were in a quandary because they were expecting him to leave. Now he wants to stay. They're around him. They're seeing the fastball has dissipated to some degree. They're seeing that he's not what he used to be.
Alyssa agreed with most of what he said.
Let me ask you, because I agree on all counts. There's a lot to unpack of what kind of went wrong for Democrats here. I think a factor is the working class feeling left behind, not reaching out to rural Americans. But what do you identify as what Democrats got wrong? And it seems like you agree Biden maybe should have stepped aside sooner.
He definitely should have stepped aside. I said it a year ago. I was on camera, everybody was getting on me. I said a year ago, you need to step aside.
You took some heat.
Whoopi jumped in, asking Stephen for more context on his thoughts about Biden and his approach.
You remember, though, that he said, does everybody remember he originally said he was just going to do it for 4 years?
Right. Yeah. That's what I brought up.
Right, and did you think that once you know who stepped in, he said, well, there's nobody, we don't have anybody?
Well, the point is that it's not about who you're going up against when you know you're not what you used to be.
He is talking about the general mindset. It's all about knowing when your time is up and when to step aside for someone else to take the lead.
And so now here you are, to answer your question directly, you are the left, you leaned and you were a prisoner to the extreme left in a lot of people's eyes. Well, guess what? Most of America doesn't operate on the fringes. Whether you're left or you're right, you're relatively centrist. You believe in compromise, negotiation, working with one another. Nobody gets to get everything they want.
He has a point. This constant tug of war between the far left and the far right isn't helping anyone. Sunny disagreed with Stephen's point about the Republicans and the left.
So you think the Republicans are sort of an extreme fringe party?
No, I don't think that they're an extreme fringe party. I think that they're operating against those they believe are extreme on the left. Like, for example, when you talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm a fiscal conservative and I'm a social liberal.
He made it clear how he doesn't see the Republicans as extremists. Instead, he sees them pushing back against what they view as extremes from the left.
But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that. But I think that's where the mistake is made. You're saying it's ridiculous. I don't disagree with you. But most of the voters out there don't think like that.
He dropped a hard truth.
If you're out there busting your tail to make ends meet and to pay your bills, and you're going to work every day, and you got a family to take care of, and you're in New York City, you're getting stuck 2 hours of your day, you're stuck in traffic. You understand? You got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. You don't have time to know what you and I know.
Maybe you need to listen to the news when you're in traffic.
Well, that's going to take you away from the things that brings down your spirit. And that's unfortunately what most voters are doing.
Now that sounded personal. Joy Behar jumped in and brought up Howard Stern's comments.
Howard Stern says that he wasn't confident that the country was ready to elect the first female president because he knows, quote, how men talk behind closed doors about us.
I respectfully disagree with Howard Stern, only from the standpoint that I wish he had been more specific. Why don't you say white men? Because let me tell you something about black men. We love our mamas.
He clarified how it's not about holding women back, but empowering them to lead.
We revere black women, and when we're trifling, we know it's us. It's not them. The white power structure is still in place. So when we talk about misogyny, when we talk about chauvinism, when we talk about women not necessarily being empowered, well, who's in a position of power to surrender some of that power? It's white men. We revere women.
Yeah.
We don't have any problem looking at a woman as a leader.
Sonny brings up the Latino vote.
I want to go back to what you said about Black men being very comfortable with matriarchy. And I agree with that because, you know, Black households are often led by a grandmother,
Yes.
Black grandmother or Black mother. However, 55% of Latino men voted for Trump. Why do you think that happened?
He breaks down the different views within the community.
Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Guatemalans, Venezuelans, Colombians, et cetera, et cetera. And if you talk to the Hispanic community, depending on who you're talking to, they think differently. The Cubans think differently than the Dominicans. The Dominicans think different than Colombians. To some, the economy was a priority. To some, believe it or not, it was the border. You had some folks within the Hispanic populace that were encouraging the borders to be closed.
He points out how different the Hispanic community is and how often people overlook that.
When we look at the economy, I remember when Biden came into the office, he inherited about 1.5% inflation. It ballooned to about 9.1% before it ultimately came down to where it is now, right? That doesn't mean anything to minorities. The percentage of inflation, and here's the percentage. Nah. How much does gas cost? How much does the groceries cost, okay? How much does rent cost? How much does my mortgage cost?
It's not just about political numbers that don't make sense to the average person. They care more about the cost of living. Sonny asks him his opinion on running for president.
You've been asked, I hear, about running for political office in the future. And some people have said that they could see you running for president. Would you do that? You think you qualified to run for president? I mean, the bar is pretty low anyway.
No. I have said this on many occasions. The answer would be hell no, because I like my life. I'm living a pretty good life. But I must confess, I wish I could debate some of these guys. I'd love to be on a debate stage going up against these guys with the presidency on the line.
That was a good take. And one thing is clear, he's not into politics for the fame.
I would be an independent because I don't like either side. And I'm not going to be bought and paid for. I'm going to do what I believe is in the best interest of the American people.
That's what most people say when they run, and then they get in there and it's like, hey, you can't make that decision without us. And it's like, well, where did you come from?
But that's because they know that it takes money to campaign, run the commercials. Look at what Trump did in terms of the commercials that he was running against Kamala Harris. He spent millions upon millions of dollars.
He paints a picture of a system where billionaires are pulling the strings.
It was just us going on a debate stage and let's talk about the issues that affect America. Name the time and place.
So listen, one of the biggest things you want to see taken out of politics.
Lobbyists.
Money.
Why? Do tell.
Because the politicians are bought and paid for.
They are.
On both
Especially
sides.
Congress.
Well, look at the Democratic and the Republican national conventions. Look at the suites. Who are in the suites?
He also talked about one of the mistakes Kamala made.
Do you think it mattered or was a mistake that Kamala Harris didn't go on his podcast?
I think it was a huge mistake for her not to go on Joe Rogan's show. The man has over 17 million subscribers. And when you know that Trump is going to do it, I really, really believed wholeheartedly that wherever Trump went, she should have gone. She should have been right on him saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right up your you-know-what. Let's get it on.
He is right. There is a disconnect between what the political elites think is best and what the voters want. He also pointed out another mistake, this time about the Democrats.
The Democrats, I believe, make the mistake of trying to tell us whose time it is. Barack Obama elevated. It was supposed to be Hillary's turn. American people on the left said, damn that, it's him. We want him. And as a result, he was a two-term president. And if you're a liberal, you absolutely positively love Barack Obama. And he's one of the most popular presidents of all time because the people decided they wanted him, not the party.
That's the kind of leadership that connects with the masses. What do you think about his views? Let's know in the comments section below.